Welcome back to Sunrise. Continuing our focus, examining the new policy of the CBN and how it will affect us. Mr. Henry Boyo, you talked about the fact that this will have an impact on the raw materials. Those who are doing businesses have got to source it at a certain price. But from what some think is, well, if the Naira didn't close at 300 to the dollar, if it closes at 280 or 281 to the dollar, and Monday being the first day, so they think that, yeah, the Naira will further appreciate. If that happens to be the case, should we just wait and see how it goes out, or we just think, look, yes, it's 50% devaluation, and it will have its effect no matter what happens?
You see, you cannot divorce reality from speculation. Okay? Sorry, I've got to say, you got to divorce reality from speculation, okay? You are speculating if, okay? I don't know about that. All I know is that it is 280 today, okay? And the reason why it is 280 is not so much because of the fact that there is so much demand for dollars, and the thing has skyrocketed, and the CBN does not have enough dollars to be able to back up the demand. Because if you said that, if you are implying that, then you are also implying that if only we had more dollars, we wouldn't be in this boat. I hope you understand, okay? But the reality, of course, is that we have had $60 billion as reserves. We had we frivolously frittered away so much dollars in, even saying that, knowing that hardly any, less than 5% or 1% of Nigerians earn 1 million naira a year, okay? Yet the government agreed that any Nigerian who can travel abroad can go and spend $150,000. How many people earn that kind of money? At the same time, you say, Bureau de change, which everybody, you don't have to be a scholar to know that the people who smuggle and also who rip off Nigeria from the treasury and carry the Naira and things like that. You see a lot of reports of Bureau de change playing a role in all this, that should have been obvious from the word go. But it was not, people's attention did not rivet on that area, and we got ripped off, okay? So the bottom line, of course, is that it is not really the demand for dollars or the supply of dollars that is the issue. As I've told you, when you had $60 billion, did it affect your exchange rate at all? Hardly. And you should wonder, so aren't we being tempted here? Does it mean that if we now earn so much more dollars, the dollar-naira rate will probably remain at about 280, 300? And don't be fooled that it will be 280 to 300, thereabouts. Because
you predicted, you said it just might get to 500.
It would even exceed that. It would exceed that.
And if it does, if our highest denomination is 1,000 naira, see, what then happens?
1,000, you had no choice but to redenominate your currency, because the biggest currency we have at the moment, the highest denominated currency, is 1,000 naira. Yeah. That's only $3. Okay? It's only $3. So ultimately, you would have to print maybe 5,000 naira note. You would also have to print a 10,000 naira note. And that's not so fantastically impossible. Ghana did the same thing. And currently, the Ghana exchange rate is about 40,000 cedis to 1. So don't think, what's Mr. Boyo talking about? No, 40,000 cedis to 1. In reality, that's what it is. All they have done was take out four zeros, and you have 4 to 1.
The state of the Nigerian economy,
sorry?
It is like you're comparing Nigeria's economy to that of Ghana.
No, I am not. I am saying that there are similarities within the economies, but the critical thing is that they have the same problems of having to keep down inflation, which they can't, and I tell you why they can't, and the cost, the need to bring cost of funds to the real sector to below 5% if you really want to do the job. Okay?
Is that what will make the difference? The cost of funds.
Let me ask you. I see you have a huge structure outside there. You either have taken a loan or you have made a lot of profit. Okay? But the chances that your profits could not have accumulated in such a way that you have the structure going up there. So you probably would have to take a loan. Okay? If you had to take a loan to do it, and you had to pay an interest of 20-something%, the chances are you would say, this is a suicidal venture. I won't do it. Businesses create jobs. Businesses create products. Businesses drive economy, whether they are factories or whatever. And the things that the factories and industries need are, number one, consumer demand. There must be consumer demand in the first place. Consumer demand becomes contracted when inflation is at 20%. Besides, inflation at 20% makes every pensioner a pauper at the end of the day, because you've lost 20% of your income for 5 years, and you are hoping that after you finish your exercise here, you have a nest egg to fall back on. But 20 years later, you find that the money means nothing. But I was going to say that the reality is that so long as you keep looking at the situation, at the problem, from the issue of demand and supply for dollars, you would make a very big mistake. Because on the other side, which the CBN would hope, the CBN and the experts who talk about these things would hope you don't see, is the demand and supply for Naira. Okay, of course you can't buy dollars without Naira, but you are aware that if you had a situation where in a marketplace where you have rations of dollars being auctioned all the time, in an environment that the CBN, the custodian of Naira itself, has clearly admitted that it has a challenge with excess liquidity. I was chatting on a television program yesterday, and I talked about this thing about excess liquidity, and the lady who was interviewing me said, I have been hearing about this excess liquidity since I was a little girl, and yet it seems not to have dried up. So, Mr. Boyo, how did it come about? You know, the reality, of course, is that if you looked at the market from the perspective of dollar and supply demand without looking at the market for Naira supply and demand, you'll be making a very big mistake. Because you have this situation where you can only buy the dollars with Naira, presumably within the context of our country. So if you continuously in a market have superfluous supply of Naira that embarrasses even the central bank, that they have to mop it up at a time that the real sector has no funds to work with, at the time that they cannot access cheap funds, and yet you are mopping up funds only to sterilize them and keep them out of the system, and then come back through the back door and say you are throwing interventions in the system, which already is destructive because you're already complaining that too much money in the system, and you're coming back and throwing money into it. So when you look at the situation and say, how do we manage this horrible market mix where CBN auctions? I don't know whether you understand the process, the word auction. Auction means if I want to auction your tie, I'll be expecting you to sell it to the person who bids the highest. So here you have the custodian of the Naira, which is the central bank. The central bank has no business being a bureau de change and selling dollars. Here you have the CBN, which is the custodian of the Naira, auctioning dollars against the Naira. In other words, the CBN is betting against the Naira, and it has always bet against the Naira. That's why the Naira is always falling, even when reserves were $60 billion and you could go and spend $150,000 abroad and nobody's going to ask you questions. These are the realities.
You've painted a very dire picture here.
But it is true. I don't know how to lie.
In 1992 or thereabout, the United Kingdom floated the sterling, and they looked like they were better off. Now we're floating the Naira, and you're saying the picture you're painting is really, really dire. So what's the difference, and how can we come out of this? I think
the question you should be asking, is that what I'm saying, is this true or not? Forget about what happened. Well, let's talk about our own
They say we can learn from history.
Yes, you can learn from history, but have you learned from the history of what happened here, where you had $60 billion worth of reserves and you didn't wonder why the exchange rate did not become stronger? No. So you've got to be very careful that you don't cry more than the bereaved, okay? We have our own problems here. We've got to solve our own problems in our own way.
How can we solve our problems outside of the world?
I'm not asking that I'm saying that you should solve your problems according to best practice. There's nothing I've said here that is not best practice, okay? I'm saying, I've spoken about liquidity. I've said this is what the problem it causes. I've also said that if you do not tackle the issue of liquidity, I'm surprised that you don't even say, Mr. Boyo, you mean the CBN actually bets against itself? You say, no, let's talk about Britain. You want to talk? No, I don't want to talk about Britain. I want to talk about what is happening here in Nigeria. And we have a situation where if we are not careful, will end up with 1,000 naira to a dollar exchange rate. Don't let people tell you, it won't happen. I want you to spend some...
Mr. Boyo, do you think the CBN would just sit back and want to get the naira, drive the naira to the ground by betting against itself?
I don't think that is a question you should ask me. I think you should say, Mr. Boyo, what you are saying is wrong because the CBN does not bet against itself, because that's what it does. If you are auctioning anything, you want the best offers. You give it to the highest bidder. So if you continuously, that's what I'm saying, the CBN has no business in the foreign exchange market of saying I'm selling, I'm buying. That's a big burrito change. The CBN's prime mandate is what's called price stability.
But they're suggesting that that's not going to happen anymore. Now
what's not going to happen?
That they won't come in and play in down markets, except they want to stop it from a free fall.
Let's look at it. Let's understand what they tell you. Okay, they said they auctioned 500 and something billion. I didn't say so. Is that not the word they said? They said they auctioned. So let's be honest with ourselves. So they are auctioning dollars against naira. Meanwhile, they are the custodian of the naira. So basically, they are betting against the naira. Because that means when you now say you are selling 500 and something million dollars to the banks, you don't say, oh, let me give it to the person who is going to give me 200 naira to a dollar. Okay? You say you're going to sell it to the person who's going to give me 200. And I'm telling you that even the demand of the price of the dollar is not so much the issue of demand, and I've explained why. That even when we had $60 billion of reserves, it didn't impact on your exchange rate. On the other hand, you are ignoring the area of surplus naira in the system. If you have surplus naira in a market in which dollars are being auctioned, you have determined the fate of the naira.
What a picture that is. Well, Mr. Henry Boyo is an economist. We appreciate your coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
Well, we'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away.